Alright, today we're going to be taking a look at the idea of creating space. Essentially, there are 6 different strategies for developing a sense of the three-dimensional on a two-dimensional surface. The first is linear perspective, which is about 600 years old in terms of its development. And the basic premise here is that all horizontal lines should recede to a vanishing point in order to create the sense that vertical surfaces are receding into the distance. In Masaccio's The Holy Trinity, we can see that the roof of the alcove larger towards the front and getting smaller as it recedes back in. And as you can see with the illustration on the right hand side, it helps to give us a sense that there is a recession, that there is space in the painting, even though the painting itself is actually flat. The second technique is using atmospheric perspective. And this has to deal with 2 factors. Number one is light, and the second is detail. What I want you to pay attention to here in terms of detail is that objects in the foreground, those objects closer to us, are highly detailed. We can see very specific patterning on the woman's dress in the bottom left-hand corner, whereas out towards the horizon, it's very vague brushstrokes. And that difference of detail also creates that illusion of things being farther away. The reason for that is because of the atmosphere. It blurs our vision as things get farther away from us. Secondly, though, we also need to be thinking about the way light is treated. You'll notice here that things in the foreground, again towards the bottom portion of the image, are much darker, and lighter values are used for those areas that are farther away from us, again closer towards the horizon line. The third strategy is overlapping, right, where we have one object that sits in front of another, and that visual cue tells us that it is closer to us. Right? When we can see the whole person, for example, the woman in red sitting on the steps, right? She is blocking out the man in the green, as well as the stool of or the throne that Homer is sitting on, right? Because we can see Oliver, she comes forward, whereas those other people and objects recede and go behind. Again, likewise, the crowd of people overlap or are in front of the temple. We can see the whole group of people, but we can't see the bottom portion of the temple. Fourthly, is the idea of scale. Those things that are closer to us are bigger. Those that are farther away are smaller. So even though in this picture space the house is smaller than the figure of the woman, we know through experience that the house is actually quite large, but it is a fact that it is in the distance that is giving us the illusion that it's actually small. Value, the use of light and dark. By creating value, it helps to create a sense of form or three-dimensionality on a particular object. So if we're looking at the figures, by including value, highlights, and shadows, we're getting a sense that there is a sense of three-dimensionality to the objects and the figures included in the image. Lastly, we have the idea of ground. Foreground being the bottom portion of the image, the bottom third, the midground being across the middle portion of the image, and the background at the very top of the composition. In this case, the sky with the clouds is the background. The waves and crashing water that we can see on either side of the raft, that would be the midground. And the foreground are the figures that we see falling off of the raft and they're dangling into the water itself. So, now it's time to practice. Identify the strategies used to create depth in this image here. And we're going to be taking a look at The Swimming Race by Alex Colville. So what strategies have been used of the 6, and where have they been used in the artwork?